We still have about 2 minutes. Good evening to everyone. Hopefully everyone is doing well, and welcome to week 7. If you have not placed your name and campus in the chat, please do so at this time. Just as a reminder, these sessions are recorded and they are viewed by the attendance administrators. It is expected that you're on camera, unless we're on break. And then, we do have our quiz. If you finish before the allotted time is up, then, you can go off camera then. But otherwise, you should be on camera. If there is a reason why you're not on camera, place a message in the chat to myself. Do not send it out to everyone. Good evening again to everyone. Hopefully everyone is well. Welcome to week 7. If you're having connectivity issues or any other issues, please let me know via chat. Again, send that message out to me. Do not send it out to everyone. Let's look and see where we're at, where we're going. We're week 7, so we're over halfway. So let's pull up our course here. Okay, let me share my screen. Homework grades are on, and they are on just to show you the impact of homework grades. But don't forget that in it's twofold. In order for the homework grades to count, the grade that you're seeing now, you must have that key graded assignment score of at least 78% without rounding. That means if it's 77.87, 77.921, that is not 78% without rounding. So in order for that homework grade to count, it must also be at least 78% without rounding. It is twofold. So homework grades are on just to show you the impact. But for that homework grade to count, the key graded assignments, which are, your HESI, your unit exam, your quizzes, they must equal to 78% without rounding in order for the homework grade to be valid and counted. So here we are in week 7. We're over halfway. We do have our quiz tonight. Next week, we do not have a quiz. Well, we don't meet next week because that's the holiday. That's why we've been adding the extra time in. So when we come back in week 9, we do have a quiz. And then week 10, we have our last unit exam. There are 3 unit exams. Let me go back to this position paper. Make sure that your plagiarism score, and this is for any classes, any papers that you're turning in, ensure that it is at least no more than 25%, because there are some assignments, if you're turning in the same assignment in the class that you turned in before, if you've turned in a similar assignment in another class, another school, you do want to make sure that you go back and paraphrase and make sure that you're doing those inside of their paper referencing, inside citations, and making sure that you're listing those references on the reference page. Otherwise, you will have a high plagiarism score. And I do want to refer you back to the handbook of what that means. There will be information submitted to your campus dean and all that. Anyways, they look at those scores anyway. So just make sure that you're going back and making sure that for any paper that you turn in for any class that's similar, if you turn in, you get a score more than 25%, you need to rework it. Please do not turn that in. In the event that you do, it will be graded, but know that plagiarism score will greatly impact your score as well as your record greatly. Just know that plagiarism is real. And so that's why you turn it into that source and it keeps up with papers from everywhere. Your submissions, everybody's submissions. And so that's how it can, that's what it does. It compares the things that are alike. So if your score is more than 25%, make sure that you go back and rework that. And that's for any papers that you're turning in for this school, this course, all of your courses. Week 9, probably week 8. We know we have that holiday on Monday and that all campuses are closed. But probably at the end of week 8, beginning of week 9, you should start receiving HESI information. But nevertheless, let me encourage you to go back now into week 1 for all of your courses. Start looking at those recordings. Start looking at the classroom recordings, your exam review recordings, because remember, in week 11, you will have all of your HESIs. And just remember for week 11, HESIs usually are generally not given this time of night. So if you have like late courses like this, your schedule more than likely will be different that week. It might even be on a different day because remember, this course is given on more than just Monday. So the HESIs on your campus, and it's campus specific, the HESI on your campus might be on a Tuesday or Wednesday or a Friday. So just keep that in mind. Just put that on your little list to just keep in mind so that you may have to rearrange or have a conversation with your campus dean or whatever to come up with a solution for you for week 11. But generally, HESIs are not given this time of night. And for the most part, courses are given Monday through Friday. So any day of the week on your campus, you could take a HESI. And then, of course, week 12, we meet briefly just to go over the scores, our scores versus national scores for attendance. So that's where we're at, and that's where we are headed. So we're off next week because that is a holiday. Make sure I'm looking at that correct. That is Memorial Day, right? Yes. And so when we come back, it will be week 9, and we will have quiz 5. But nevertheless, can't say this enough. Go back to week 1. Start looking at all of that information, and this is for all of your courses because you will have those HESs. You will have NCLEXs that are coming up, and you want to make sure that you have a strong foundation understanding of all of those concepts. All right. Make sure you put your name and campus in the chat. So let's do some review of our content here. Let me get it pulled up for us. So we're going to review the content, and I am going to share my screen here. And remember, read for understanding. Don't try to answer the quickest or the fastest. Just make sure that you're reading and understanding based on your knowledge base here. Let's see. I think I corrected the one that I needed to correct. All right, so log in, at least with your initials. Okay, how did you do? Let's go back here. Okay, so this time I'll talk us through. Let's see here. All right, so test taking tips. We want to remember, identify what is the concept. What do we know about that concept? And when we are looking at the answer choices, we want to select the answer choice that is responding or answering what the question actually asked us. With the answer choices, make sure that the answer choices are all the way correct. If the answer choice is partially correct, then we do not select the answer choice. So the mission statement, and it's saying, why is it needed? So we're on a mission. What is our purpose for doing something? Why is this facility open? If we go to this facility, what services can we expect to receive? Okay. So which of these do I need to select? What is the
The
answer?
girl one.
Go, the purpose of the organization. So the mission is, why are we there? Why are we there? Why is this hospital there? What services do they provide? Sometimes, and you all probably have been doing your clinical rotation at the ER where people, or even on the floor, med-surg, people get transferred from different facilities, especially if they cannot provide the services that patient needs, that level of care. People decide on which long-term care facility to go to because not all long-term care facilities might have that piece where the therapists come in. So it's the purpose. Why are they there? Why is that organization existing? Okay. What are the results of effective leadership? So, what is leadership? And then it says effective. So, in order for us to be an effective leader, what is our bigger picture? Is it concerned with just hiring enough people? Just focus on planning and directing? Or does it, all of these
Produces
things,
change.
Right.
it inspires trust and produces change? And with these things, people will want to come work on your floor. They want to work with on your shift, as they say. And then a component of leadership is, planning, directing, making sure you have enough, getting others' input and things like that. But leadership, the results are, it inspires trust and it produces change. People will come to you even if something went wrong, even if they did wrong, they will come to you and then it will produce change for them to do better or for us to revise a policy or something. Okay. So this is saying effective managers possess certain skills. So which of these skills, in order for you to be an effective manager, in order for that nurse to be an effective manager, what do we need to have? What should be in our skill set? We open up our
All of
skill
them.
set toolbox. What'd you say?
All of them.
Communication. We need to be effective communicators. We need to be able to problem solve because things will happen at a moment's notice. Critical things. Time management. We have to be able to get our tasks done within that certain time frame. Let's see, how do we do? Okay. All right. Okay. Which leadership style? The leader is saying, I want my staff to not feel bad and like me.
Laissez-faire.
Okay. So with laissez faire, they're more concerned with them being liked, the person, rather than the task, the people that we're there to take care of. All right. So here it is. It says appropriate interventions for talking to a client who is hearing impaired. So we have a client, they're hearing. That's the issue. We put in context, they're hearing impaired. What do we need to do?
The
Blue, red,
green, the yellow, and the red.
no green.
I mean, no, the blue. I'm sorry.
Okay. So what's wrong with this right here? Can we really do that at the same time?
No.
No.
And then still, if we could, which ear would we not want to speak into?
They're impaired ear.
Yes, exactly. So read it through, think it through. Well, wait a minute. Is this, and see if there's a connection. There's not a connection. Don't try to make it be. Got it. Good. All right. Which leadership style varies according to meet the demands of the situation? Look for root words. Look for words like all, but, and, the, um,
Situational.
situational. That one has that root word. Some of them have those root words in it. Some of our ethics principles have root words in that we can look at it to remember. Okay, here we go. Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory. Which of these is a description of it? Think about the triangle. What is the purpose of it? What does he say?
Is it all behavior is internally motivated?
Okay.
And the red one?
Meeting need of one level acts as a motivator to try to move on to the next.
And regression may take place in physical or emotional situations.
Okay. Storm comes. We're sheltered today. An hour comes. It just depends. Flooding, tornadoes, loss of a job. We can go up and down that triangle. What's wrong with this right here?
Because that's the top level, like the lowest level is um the psychological or the
Physiological.
physiological
Yes,
needs.
food, water, shelter, exactly. So make sure it's all the way correct. It's a level, but it's not the lowest level. Okay. What kind of communication? The patient rated the pain as 5 in quotation marks. So that means that patient said it. We know we have verbal and nonverbal communication.
Blue verbal.
This patient stated it. Okay, so we said verbal. What kind of communication? Facial grimacing.
Nonverbal.
Okay, we observe the person frowning. So they might be in some type of pain or discomfort. Okay, the nurse recommends skills to create a less stressful work environment. What are some skills that we need to make the environment that we work in less stressful? It won't be stress-free, but it'll be less stressful.
Organize your shift.
Okay, being organized. What's wrong with, well, we're going to come up with it. What's wrong with treat some staff with respect?
Because you want to treat all staff
Exactly. So watch those little words. This some, most, it will change the whole definition. So this answer choice is not all the way correct. So we would not select those. What about creating a conflicting environment? Is that equal less stress? That's gonna be more stress. So yes, watch for those little words that changes or doesn't match or there's no connection. Okay.
Treat all staff with respect.
Okay.
Create a calm environment.
Calm environment. This one right here. What's wrong with this one?
Because organization is needed.
Is needed. Does not make skip. Got it. We talked about those. Great. Okay.
Have equipment available for staff to get the job done.
Okay. What's wrong with this one? Create a laissez-faire environment. Would that create less stress or more stress?
It's more stress.
Yes, because remember we just said laissez-faire. Usually that leader is just more focused on themselves, not the team, not the people that we're there to take care of. More focused on people liking them. So that's going to create more stress. Got it. Is that it? That's what you all said. Okay. All right. One more. Oh, that was it. Okay. All right. So publish. I will place the password in the chat, and that is a 5 instead of an S. It's 5UCCESS205. I'm going to push it out to everyone. Remember, if you have any questions, please place them in the chat. Do not come off of mute. Let's see here. If you don't see it, go to Gradebook or to the modules for the quiz. Pushing it out. I'm going on mute. You have 15 minutes. I will post a return time in the chat. If you finish before the 15 minutes, you can, turn your camera off then. Just make sure you're back on at the return time. All All right, everyone is finished. We still have 3 minutes, but you can come on back. We'll save our time for the end. We'll save our time at the end. So in the chat, tell me why would an organization have a mission statement? In the chat, just do a one-liner. Why would an organization, what's the purpose of that mission statement for that organization? If I go to Happy Urgent Care Center, their mission statement is going to say one thing. If I go to Happy Hospital, their mission statement is going to say something different. So in the chat, tell me what is the purpose. Why would an organization have a mission statement? So do a one-liner. If it takes two, that's fine. A mission statement. Why does each organization have a mission statement? And they're going to be different. Urgent cares is going to be different from the hospitals and long-term care facilities, and even long-term care facilities. Some have rehab, some have you can outpatient rehab. So, what is that mission statement for? What does it tell us about that organization? And put it out so everyone can see. Let's see what we have here. So I'll give you a minute to put that out. We're talking about the mission of an organization. I would go to the urgent care if I need this. I will go to the hospital if I need this. Think about when they transfer patients, even from floor to floor or from facility to facility. It's because something is provided differently um, at these different facilities. You know, if we need hospital care, we don't go to the doctor's office because the mission of the doctor's office is going to be different than the mission of the hospital. And you're right, it's the purpose, it's why they exist. It is the services that they're going to provide. It's the services that that facility will provide, not the belief of that organization, but the services, the purpose. Why are they there? If we go there, what services are we going to receive? You know, at the one hospital, they may be trauma one, they may be, you know, different levels of hospital care. So that's why they transfer the patients because their mission, the things, the services that they provide at this hospital are not, for example, if they don't have a orthopedic on staff, they're going to transfer that patient because it's part of their mission is not to provide orthopedic care. Their purpose is not for that. So they transfer you out, they stabilize you, and they send you on your way. So that is the mission is the purpose. Is there, why are they there? What services will you gain from going there? You know, what can they do for you? Democratic leadership style in the chat. Let's use the chat again. Give me a one-liner describing what is Democrat versus laissez-faire. You know, give me a description of what is laissez-faire leadership and then what is democratic leadership. Think about the people that we're serving, our patients that we're supposed to be taking care of, the tasks that we need to complete, the team, the leader. So just throwing some words out there for you to help formulate, you know, what is the difference, or what is democratic leadership style, and then what is laissez-faire leadership style. I'll give you a minute to put that in there in the chat. So we're defining what is laissez-faire and then what is democratic. Find my little timer here. Get started. Okay, 42 seconds. So what is democratic and then what is laissez-faire? Think about the patients that we're supposed to take care of, the team, the leader. One considers all of them, and one does not. One is just focused on one thing. Okay, okay. So we're using the chat. We're talking about democratic and laissez-faire. Okay, good, good. Okay, our minute is up. Okay, so yes, democratic, it considers the patients that we're taking care of. It considers the team members. So it's teamwork. It even they may have think tank sessions where we talk it through, but then we still come up with a common solution that's for the greater good of all the patients that we are serving. Whereas laissez-faire, it's just there's no focus, there's no guide. Where the focus is on the leader, they're more concerned with the people liking them. Laissez-faire really it doesn't consider the patients. Oh, you can just go to break when you want to. You can take a break during mealtime. You can take a break when we're supposed to be bathing and administering medications. Laissez-faire is more concerned with the leader because they want people to like them. So they're not considering the patients and the residents, the clients, whichever setting we're in to take care of them. They're more concerned with themselves. Okay. When you're doing your math, make sure that you're answering what the math question is asking you. Even if, and what I mean is if it's saying round out to the nearest whole number, round out to the nearest tenth, round out to the nearest hundred. Make sure that you're answering what the question is asking. Let's see here. If we have to intervene, if we're talking and having a discussion, and you as the nurse leader have to intervene with something that I said as an unlicensed personnel, or, we're just having a conversation and I'm another nurse. And why would you have to intervene? Is it because I said something that was correct or I said something that was incorrect?
You said something that was incorrect.
Okay. So think about what the question is asking you. Answer what the question is asking you all. We're making choices based on what the question is asked. If we're having to intervene, that means something was stated that was incorrect. We don't intervene when, the discussion, everything is being said is correct. Okay. And also, let's see, Pam and Jerry, both nurses. Well, Pam is the nurse, Jerry's the patient. Jerry states that his pain is, uh, let's see, a 2 on a scale of 0 to 10. And then Pam observes Jerry facial grimacing, which trying to think of what the question is. Which one of the symptoms or which one of the assessment findings was verbal?
Rated it with a number.
Okay. What was the nurse name? You all? Pam. Pam observed which assessment finding?
Nonverbal. The
Which
facial
was what?
grimacing.
The facial grimacing. Exactly. So again, answer what the question is asking you. All right. So if you miss any, those are the things that you miss. All right. So let's move forward here. So I am going to send you an activity. I'm going to spend some time here. So it's trying to send now. Okay, so hit refresh in your Canvas mail. Hit refresh in your Canvas mail. And what we're going to do is put there, let's see, how many slides are there? I think it's only 5 or 6. But we will put you in a group. Let me just randomly place you in a group. So open that assignment up and then discuss each slide. And when we come back, we're going to bring you back to whole group, and it should be time to go on our break then. But once we come back from the break, we will discuss. So again, just doing things to address all learning styles. So you will be replacing a group. The breakout rooms are open. Go to your Canvas mail, look for the activity that is there. Each slide, you're just going to discuss it, make notes about it. And of course, everything comes from your modules, your required readings. Accept the invitation. Look for the activity in your Canvas mail. And of course, I'll just circle around. Remember, these sessions are recorded. Accept the invitation to the breakout room. And give you a minute or so to pull everything up and to adjust yourselves. And I'll see you in a little bit. Ms. Tompkins, it looks like are you having connectivity issues? Looks like you are. Were you all able to find the activity in your Canvas mail?
I sent you an email earlier. This is Lawson.
Okay,
That my
wait, Ms. Lawson, let me pause you. We are talking about the activity in the that I sent you to
No, and I
the
was trying to explain to you why I wasn't able to get. That's what I was about to tell you. I'm not able to um get on there unless I'm on this device. Because I was trying to explain to you that my computer went out earlier. I sent you an email as well saying that I was going to be joining from my phone.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't want you to say anything because there's been an issue with recording things, people talking about stuff other than school related. So I didn't know what you were going to say. I just want to pause you because it
Oh
is
no, I
recorded.
sent the email. I wasn't going to do that, but thank you.
Okay,
You're
yeah,
fine.
I just want to be cautious because I don't want to do anything and capture anything that's not supposed to be captured on these things here. Okay, so you're having
Okay.
connectivity issues. Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
but I'm getting a new computer tomorrow.
Okay, that's fine. So are you able to see the activity on the device that you're on?
No, ma'am.
No, you
I
cannot
had
see
to
the
take
activity.
I had to take the quiz on my iPad.
Okay, so you all can share. Someone can share their screen if you are able to pull it up. You have the capability of sharing your screen. So that you all can just discuss it outright. So it's a little green button. On my computer, it's a green button with the arrow that points up that says share. And then you all can talk it through like that.
Wait, which one you on? Which slide you on, Finette?
You see the third slide? Follow up.
Does anybody else have anything for resume dues?
Uh,
About uh, discuss critical thinking,
Knowledge.
collecting data.
Yep. Give me one more second.
Okay.
Something else. Knowledge, recall, memorization, comprehension, understanding, application, use what you know, analysis, break down complex info into basic parts.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Transcultural nursing theory, culture care. She's the culture care.
okay.
So Linenger is the culture care.
And then
And then Orem, you want to write that down?
yeah.
Write down culture care for
And then discuss the critical thinking.
I guess it'd be like mapping the critical thinking or like thoroughly thinking out what the problem is to get a solution.
That's the last one. Okay.
So we are closing the breakout rooms. Everyone should be back in just a few here. 13 seconds. Everyone should be back. There was some good conversation, healthy learning conversation. You all were bouncing ideas off each other. That was really good. And so that's going to lead us into our break. When we come back, each group is going to share out on a slide, and then the others will add to. And so we will go on a first 5-minute break. So return at in 5 minutes, which will be 9:35. And just a reminder, this recording is going to stay on, but you feel free to turn your cameras off. And just make sure that you're muted. Okay. All right, come on back. Let's see if we can spin this wheel here. Let's see, can I toggle back and forth? So let me look at what was our first slide? Let's see. Okay, so we have resume dues. Let me spin the wheel. So I'm gonna spin the wheel. Spin. Let's see if this little wheel works. Use your different wheel that pulls up. Okay, so group number 2. Let's see who was in group number 2 here. Who do I have for group number 2? And then we'll let everyone add if we didn't catch everything. So that was Perez, Galford, and Smith. What are some resume dues?
Resume dues is to make sure that they're qualified for the job that they're applying for. Was one of the things we had talked about.
Okay.
Making sure they have the experience, sorry, not experiment.
Okay. Anyone else from that group? Anyone else from the whole group? Resumes.
Yeah. Just how important it is to follow up after the interview as well.
Okay.
Make sure that you show interest and distinct yourself, showcase any skill sets that might set you apart, like certifications. If you did IB cert, make sure you add that
Okay.
so that you can be set apart.
All right. So when creating a resume, it is important to use a balanced design. I know sometimes I like to be fancy too. You know, we have our different fonts, the lettering looks different, but we want to use a balanced design, the same font and design throughout the resume. We do want to limit the size of the resume, preferably to no more. If you can do 1 page, that's good, but no more than 2 pages. And then we want to use those bullet points because those bullet points highlights those your job skills or certification. It brings special attention to those. The font size should be between 10 and 14. And we usually use Arial or Times New Roman. And then if you have to actually print it out and bring it in, you might want to go buy Kinko's or Home Office Depot, and they have a high quality paper that's used without textures. So again, we want to use a balanced design. Make sure our font is between 10 to 14, no more than 2 pages, and then use those bullet points to highlight your skill set. Any questions about the resume? And so I know, and if you haven't been employed and the job that you're applying for is nurse related, because you might not have, you haven't been a nurse yet, you do still want to highlight your academic achievements and then your clinical rotations. So get in those clinical rotations and, your instructor is there. They're not going to let you do anything wrong or harm the patient. And so you can list those, the things that you've completed. Usually we have a skill sheet that students keep up with all the skills that they've, done throughout their clinical rotations anyways. But you can also highlight your academic achievements and then the things that you've done on your clinical rotations also on that resume. Okay. I think we got it all for the resume dudes. Okay. And we kind of already went into the second slide. Follow up on a job interview is essential. But then I need someone to tell me what should we do. Let me spin the wheel. Let's see which group is going to tell us about this. Let me find the wheel again. If I could just keep that little wheel, have 3 screens open, but I haven't mastered that yet. Wow. So let me spin the wheel. Let's see. Oh, that's the same groups. Come on, wheel, give me another one, another number. Okay, group number 6. Let's see who is group number 6. Leanna, Lindsay, and Tompkins. So we are on slide number 2, which you all are sharing about What should we do? Follow up on that job interview is essential. And someone kind of alluded to that already. But what are those things that we should specifically do?
We can send an email follow-up. Maybe a thank you letter for their time.
Okay. Anyone else from that group?
That's just what Lindsay and I discussed together.
Okay. Anyone else from whole group? Okay. You want to follow up on that job interview. It is essential. Go ahead.
I'm in that group, but I'm just checking now because
you want to follow. Okay, yes, you're having connectivity issues. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. You were moved around. Okay, so follow up on that job interview is essential, you all. We can do a handwritten or email thank you letter. Should be sent to the interviewer the same day the interview took place. Okay, it is not appropriate for the candidate to phone the interviewer or for the candidate to tell the interviewer that they will call them back within a few days. Waiting for contact from the human resource department does not allow the employer to see or hear your name again. So once you send that thank you email, your name comes back around if you bringing attention to yourself again. So you do want to do that because you're keeping your name, your interview at the front of their minds. Okay. And so during that interview, there are some things that should not be asked, and it's considered illegal. It just should not be asked about you. So during an interview, can a potential employer ask about your surgical history?
No.
What about if you're able to work overtime or extra hours? Sometimes they don't call it overtime. They just say extra hours.
They can ask you. Yeah, they can ask you.
Okay. So yeah, they can ask you, hey, are you available in the event that we need, someone to come in and do a few extra hours just to complete this task? I know you've done because a lot of times, they have all different kind of shifts now. Baylor shifts is usually like those 2 days that you work in, it considered full time. But in addition to that, they have some additional tasks. They want to know, well, hey, can you fill in? A lot of times you'll be cross-trained to work in other departments. And so, yes, it is legal for them to ask you, if you're willing to work extra time or overtime. What about your current level of education? Is that legal?
Yes.
Okay. What about if you're licensed in that state?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. But anything like surgeries, your surgical history, your things
what about
like that.
Children? They can't ask you if you have children, right? Isn't that illegal?
Because it's not related to the job unless they're asking you because they're going to have, I know at certain jobs, they do have daycare. They do have certain events that they do that are geared toward children. Like, for example, they just had what was that thing that they just had at that place that we were at? It was some type of activity outside. It was doing one of those, was it during Nurses Week? It was during Nurses Week. That's when it was. And they had something for the employees' children. And they were just asking ages, and so they wanted the activities geared towards their age group. But as far
it was
as
only if it's relevant to the
if it's relevant, to the job, not any extracurricular, stuff like that. No, they don't need to. Okay. All right. Let's see what does our next slide say. Okay, what is the primary responsibility of the charge nurse, of the charge role? Let's see. Let me spin the wheel, y'all. Let's spin the wheel. Let me find that little wheel. And I'm spinning it, and it's on group number 3. Did 3 already answer? Did you all already answer? You all? Let me go back to group 3. Who is 3? That is Pamela, Kaden. It's kind of blurred out. Ariella, you all are group 3.
It's to oversee and manage like day-to-day operations.
Okay. Anyone else from that group or anyone from the whole group?
Maintaining a safe and effective environment.
Okay.
Coordinate the workflow and the activity of the team.
Okay. Yep. Got it. Got it. Good, good, good. All right. I think you all summed it up pretty much. All right. Let's keep it moving. All right. Networking at an organization. Networking. Let me spin the wheel. Let me spin the wheel. But the wheel. Hold on, y'all. Got things open here. Spin. It's spinning. And let me share the screen so you can see the wheel. Let's see. It is on number 5. Networking. Let's see. Number 5. Group 5 was Amanda, Moreland, and Deville. Networking. Tell us all about it.
And it's like when people come together and like say one person works in cardiology, one works in ENT, and they talk about what they both offer so that if one needs some services from the other department, then they would know who to come to and who to talk to.
And within on that same floor. So it's on your floor too. So, but the thing about so what I hear you saying is assisting other staff members without being asked, or asking if there's a committee or something that you can also work with, so you can start collaborating. But the thing is, when you are networking and you are assisting your other coworkers, even if it's a different floor, make sure that you don't assume duty, because we talked about duty on the last go round. Duty, breach of duty, injury, and approximate cause. So yes, we want you to network, talk with other coworkers on your floor, other floors, and then when we say do things without being asked, it's something like changing the trash, helping them restock their cart, refreshing their water pitcher, asking if there are committees that you can participate in, because sometimes floors will they're trying to revise their policy, so they'll use other people from other floors that have nothing to do with their floor to be like the pilot and to give their input, so that you might be on a committee. And also we can offer to mentor new employees who's a student nurse. So once you become a nurse and people start coming through, you can sign up as a mentor as well. So let me go back through that again. You do want to ask if there are any committees that you can participate in, and that can look like, whatever that facility has going on. Usually they want you to do pilots. Sometimes it's just a one question survey. It may be several question survey, or it may be a sit down meeting, a Zoom. And then you're assisting other members, without being asked. And what we mean are things like changing the trash, refreshing the cart. Don't do anything that you're going to assume duty for your coworkers' patients, because then if there's a breach of duty, then if you've assumed the duty, then it's going to fall back on you. And then, usually at the interview, we are just focusing on that job and the things that we're going to be doing if we're hired and if we decide to go there. But we need to also ask, are there any additional benefits the organization has to offer? Many times they have community representatives from the team, and you'll be the face of that organization. If they have community events, you, in addition to working your day to day, if there are events in the community, if the local community college is having something, or if the newspaper needs an article, they will, if you're on that committee, you'll be that person that they'll go to. And it's usually like a team of you all that will actually participate in that. So don't forget to ask that. Anything else? Anything that we overlooked? So if I don't know if you all have mentors or if you all call them something else, but you do want to establish that relationship with them, because a lot of times they're the ones that will write you your letter of recommendations. And also they can let you know about upcoming workshops and then different opportunities that may present themselves, especially in that area, especially if it's a rotation that you really enjoyed and you feel like you might want to work in that area. Okay. So LPNs can be charge nurses at long-term care facilities. LPNs cannot be charge nurses at acute care facilities. A primary role of that charge nurse, you all said it, but to sum it up, is to see what care all the clients need. And that's prioritizing that care. Once we figure out, okay, are these people stable, unstable? Okay, how much care do they need? Two persons assistance, set up help. What do they need? One person for transfer, two persons for transfer. Prior to putting that care into priority, prioritizing the care needs of those residents is going to be essential. Any questions about anything that we went over so far? All right, let's look at our next slide. And it is critical thinking. Let me spin this wheel and see who's going to tell us about this critical thinking. Okay, let's see. And spin. Did we already get group 3? Let's see. Who hasn't went? Let's see. Group 3. Yes, you all just went. Let's spin it one more time. Let's get everyone first, and then we'll go back. Oh, Will. Okay, group 7. Let's see. I don't think we called on group 7. Group 7, Boyd, Battle, Lockhart, and Monday. Tell us about critical thinking. Let's hear from you.
You need to make evidence-based decisions.
Okay.
Basically focusing on the importance of situations.
Okay. Anyone else from that group? And then we'll add in. Anyone else
Able
want
to analyze and evaluate the information to be able to form a judgment.
And what helps us with that? What process?
The nursing process.
The nursing process. I tell you, you can't get away from it. Critical thinking is based on the principles of the nursing process. The nursing process. It helps us to stay organized. Anyone else want to add anything about that critical thinking? That nursing process, we can't get away from it. Okay, great. All right, now then our next slide says, list the steps of the scientific principles of critical thinking. Did you all want to carry over, or do you want to give someone else a chance?
I can carry over.
Okay, let me hear from you. Let's go.
Okay, I wrote down, you can identify the problem first. You need to gather your information and your data, whether that's subjective, objective, formulate the nursing diagnosis, develop your plan, implement it, and then evaluate it and revise as needed. But that's more than the 5.
Okay. All right. So collect your data. And we're going to do all these things in an organized way. Well, that nursing process helps us anyways. So you got to collect the data first. Then you want to verify that data, because some data you collect, for example, facilities, like if something happens, they like to go back 3 shifts just to capture, the whole, a bigger picture. And sometimes they go back 6 shifts. So in collecting that data, you may get information, or if you were getting written statements, you may get a statement for someone that hadn't worked within those 3 shifts or within those 6 shifts. So verifying that data in an organized way. And how do you know? Well, you take the time log, you see who was actually there, who was on that hall, who was in that area. If it was something that happened in that area, or it was something that happened in a specific room, who was assigned to that room. And that's why it's so important. If you're changing patients, whatever that facility's procedure is, make sure that you're following through and signing, and whether that's an electronic signature or whatever, because if something happens, they're going to have to backtrack, go back and look and see who was assigned, who was there in these areas. And so if we don't do our signature properly, then we may get caught up in something and we really were not there. So first, you were right. We want to collect that data in an organized way. Then we want to verify the data in an organized way. The example that I just gave was like if we collected statements, putting up against, who's assigned to the people in that area. And then we want to arrange it in an organized way. And when we arrange it in an organized way, it helps us to identify if there are any gaps in information. Okay, well, we got everybody's statements laid out. We went back 6 shifts. So there should have been 5 statements, if we only have 4 statements. So there's some gap in information. We need to see who that 5th person was. We go back to the schedule, see who was supposed to work, who actually clocked in, who was actually assigned to that area. And this does take time. Then once we get all the pieces and everything laid out, we want to analyze the data and then test the data out. So we do need to know those 4 steps. Collecting the data, verifying it, and arranging it. Looking for any gaps in any information, and then want to analyze it and test it out. But that first thing is we got to gather information, because we really don't know what we're really looking at until we gather all the information. Okay, anything else anybody want to add to that? Okay, so now I think we captured all the groups. Is there a group that I did not capture? Come on, come forth and tell me.
This is Lawson. I'm not sure what group number I was in, but
Yes,
my
ma'am.
group.
Okay, so you all take us to the next slide. Define,
Okay.
discuss, and we could just do one of the principles, knowledge, or you could do all of them, however. List it up.
Define, discuss, and give examples. I got knowledge. The collection of the facts, information, and the skills acquired through experience or education.
Okay.
Comprehension, the ability to grasp the meaning of information. Application, using knowledge and comprehension in practical situations. I always mess up on this word. Analyze, analysis,
Analysis. Yes. Okay.
breaking down complex information into components to understand it better.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anybody else want to add from any group? Want to add to any of those definitions? Okay, because we're going to apply it here in just a moment. So knowledge, referring to that ability to recall and repeat information that we have memorized. Okay, those steps. Then comprehension refers to that basic ability to recall, to understand, and then to identify examples of that information. So one's a little bit more build upon. Okay. Then application refers to using learned material in new situations. And then analysis refers to the ability to break down complex information into basic parts and then to relate those parts to that whole picture. Okay. Let's see here. Now let's give you some examples. Let's see what this is. So the nurse is saying that they remember the steps to inserting a Foley catheter or wound care, setting up a sterile field. If that nurse says they remember those steps, which level is that referring to? They're recalling and repeating the steps. We got knowledge, comprehension, application, and analysis. So the nurses. So let me tell you again. Tell me whether or not it's do we agree with comprehension?
It's not. Sorry.
I didn't hear you.
I think it's knowledge, right?
Okay, so you got knowledge. You got knowledge and comprehension. So you all tell me. Knowledge refers to the ability to recall and repeat information that has been memorized. Comprehension refers to the basic ability to recall, understand, and identify examples of that information. So the question was, the nurse recalled or remembered the steps to inserting a catheter, doing wound care, setting up a sterile field. Those are examples of knowledge or comprehension.
Is it knowledge?
Okay, in the chat, let me hear from everybody. Knowledge or comprehension. Knowledge refers to the ability to recall and repeat information that has been memorized. Comprehension it refers to the basic ability to recall, to understand, and identify examples of that information.
It's comprehension because I comprehend what I'm doing and I can go back and tell you step by step that it's a sterile field. Yes, the knowledge is that I have it. I understand that it's a Foley catheter, how to do it, but I comprehend how to do it and explain it to somebody else. Wouldn't that be
that wasn't the scenario I gave. The scenario I gave is a nurse just stating, I
like she gave
recall.
examples? Mm-hmm.
The nurse is just stating, I remember how to insert a Foley catheter. The nurse is just stating, I remember the steps of doing wound care.
Okay, so then it would be knowledge.
Okay, let me see what y'all put in the chat. Let me see. Okay, it is knowledge because it's just that recall. It's just the nurse recalling those things. Okay, all right, good. You all are doing good. Healthy conversation, and so the Nurse Practice Act describes the scope of practice. Is that true or false?
Professor Morgan, can you reread it, please?
The Nurse Practice Act, it defines the scope of practice. True or false?
True.
Okay, I agree. All righty, so we're down to our last two slides. Doing good so far. Define and discuss that spirit of inquiry. What in the world is that? We usually see it mostly with, especially with new nurses, and it's not a bad thing. So what is it? What is this spirit of inquiry? Anyone? Because I think I got all the groups. Did I get everyone? Because I won't leave anyone out. Remember, this is a safe space. Even if we get something incorrect, we're going to guide us along the way. So the spirit of inquiry. What did you all come up with? Let me hear from you. Do I need to spin that wheel again? Are we going to have some volunteers?
The desire to ask and explore, curiosity.
All right. Let me hear from one other person. The spirit of inquiry.
The desire to seek out new knowledge and understanding.
Okay. The spirit of inquiry is, one who will challenge traditional and existing practices. It's not that, we're saying that what we're doing now is bad or wrong. It's just that, hey, can we accomplish the same thing, if not more, by doing it differently? Can we have better results? Can we do this same procedure? We have to do this procedure like this, but hey, can we do it this way and save time? Use less resources. So that spirit of inquiry, it refers to challenging what the existing thing is to do, or that traditional and existing practice. We raise questions, we're seeking creative approaches to solve whatever the problem is. It's not a bad thing, but that's just what it is, the spirit of inquiry. And usually I say new nurses because you all have done your papers on the latest evidence. And so you all are looking at, the latest evidence out there within the last 5 years. And someone has been on the job for 10 years or been out of nursing school. If they're not reading up on that topic, then their information may be 10 years old and yours is at least within that, the last 5 years. And there are some things that we can do where we can save resources, save time. Scheduling is always a thing. Hey, can we offer different scheduling options? So spirit of inquiry is not a bad thing. It is just raising those questions, challenging the traditional or the things that we are currently doing or the existing practices. Any questions about the spirit of inquiry? All right, so we're gonna toggle back to those that slide number 9, knowledge comprehension, application, and analysis. All right, so let me give you an example, and I want you to tell me what you think it is. Okay. So let's see. Student nurse Maggie was able to, let's go back to those same examples I just gave. Student nurse Maggie was able to insert the indwelling catheter in the patient she had at clinical today. Student nurse Bob was able to do wound care on the patient that he had in clinical today. A student nurse Nancy was able to, what was the other thing? Oh, set up a sterile field in clinicals today. So they're using what they have already practiced in the setting. So they're taking what they know and they're actually performing it in the real, with a real person, a real client. And so they've moved from the practice setting, the skills lab to, real life. Is that knowledge, comprehension, application, or analysis? Put it in the chat.
Application.
Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Let me see what you're thinking. Type it in the chat. So I'll go over the definitions while you're thinking about it. Application means to be able to use that learned material in new situations. Knowledge, we said that was referring to recalling and repeating information that has been memorized. Comprehension refers to understanding that information, recalling it, and identifying examples of that information. And then analysis is the breaking down of those complex parts into basic information so that you can look at that whole picture. Okay, let me see what you all are saying. Let's see what we got. So I don't have responses from everybody. I need to hear from you. I have knowledge, application. Wait a minute, my chat not refreshed. So what is that an example of? Go back to my chat now. Okay. Application. So going back to my question. I'm asking you which one of those is an example of the situation that I'm giving. So we have the nurse. The student nurse, Bob was able to set up the sterile field today in clinical. Whatever floor he was on, they needed a sterile field set up, and he was able to do that. He not only recalled, but he actually performed and actually did the skill. So let me see what we got here. And it is application. So not only he took it a step further than recalling and remembering, he actually did it in a new setting. He did it for real. And so that's usually what you get signed off on when you're in your clinical sites. And don't be afraid to do those skills that you've learned in clinicals, in the skills lab, so that, because once you get your license, you out there, things on that setting, you're going to be doing these skills that you've learned. All right. Applications means to be able to use what you've learned in those new situations. So you're taking what you know, what you practice, and you're actually doing it. Knowledge is recalling and repeating that information. And then comprehension refers to understanding that information, recalling it, and identifying examples of the information. And then we have that analysis. It's a little bit more complex. It's breaking down and so that you can see the whole picture. Okay. All right, let's see what slide we're on now. I think we're down to the theorists. So we have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so let's talk about the theorists, and we'll just hear from volunteers. Like, do you have a one-worder or a phrase that theorist is known for? So let me just hear from you. We don't have to go in order, and anyone can respond. Tell me about one of the theorists. Or you can tell me about all of them. Who was known for cultural care?
That's the first one. I don't know how to pronounce her name.
Linenger, Orem, Rosenstock, or Roy?
Linenger.
Okay, we agree. What about self-care deficit theory? Which one of them?
Was that Orem?
Yeah, that's the
Got it. Great, great. So we got Linenger, cultural care. So far, we got Orem, self-care deficit theory. What about health belief theory? If I believe the intervention that you wanted me to do is good for me, then I will participate. But if I don't believe that it will, then it's just an intervention. We're glad for you to mention it to us, but we're not going to do it. If I don't believe it, who was that?
Was that the Rosenstock?
Rosenstock. Got it. Okay. And then what was Roy? What kind of model did they develop?
System interacting with the environment.
Okay, being able to adapt. So adaptation. Okay. So we got those. So lineage cultural care. We have Orm, self-care deficit, Rosenstock, health belief. Some of those you can, I mean, all of them, so far, all of those you really can, whatever the name of their theory is, that's what it was about. It's not, so vague. And then Roy developed the adaptation model. Okay. Are we good on those theories? And then we already talked about Maslow, the hierarchy of needs. He's in there. So we talked about, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and those unmet needs creates tension. So to motivate that person to react. For example, a storm just came. We had flooding. There was a tornado. We had to flee the home. So because we have flooding, that creates that person to try to seek out solutions. It creates tension, and it motivates that person to react, to try to get that need met. And then you can go up and down, that triangle. Just because of, that moment in time is something happened. I know that on the news they were showing, like, everybody's graduating now. Student, I think they had an accident, and then he was able to walk across the stage. So in that moment of time, but because of that unmet need of being able to care for himself, he pushed and pushed and pushed through. And then with therapy and all the different interventions, he was able to walk across that stage. And so you can go up and down, and no one is exempt on that triangle about things happening. So what was Leninger known for? What you got on your notes? What was Leninger known for?
Culture care.
What was Roy known for? What model did he come up with? Did she come up with? Callista Roy. What's another word for adaptation? Pivot, depends on what your environment is. You adjust yourself, all of that.
You
adapt. The same thing. I got it. What about Rosenstock? What do we say about Rosenstock?
Self-care deficit.
Not
no, health
Rosenstock.
system. Health.
Belief. Rosenstock is health belief. So which one is self-care deficit theory?
The Orem.
Okay. So make sure you have those. I'll give you all a minute to make sure you have that written down. We gotta know it. We put a little timer on and start. Make sure you have those in your notes. You got to know those theories. So I need to go back over them, or you just need a minute to just write them down. Put your little note.
Back, please.
Okay. So we did have Linenger cultural care. We're culturally competent nurses. We identify what our culture is and our understanding of our own. Then all of our clients, we have, because that's part of taking care of them, knowing what their culture is and their cultural beliefs are. So because we want them to have that partnership and to take part in their care, because it's their care. So we need to find out what their beliefs are. So Linenger said that's important. We need to be culturally competent nurses, provide that cultural care. Orem says self-care deficit theory. I can't, I need to have assistance, or I don't need assistance. Orem, self-care deficit. Rosenstock, if I don't believe the intervention that you're bringing to me is just the intervention that you're bringing to me, if I don't have a health belief about it, then it's just something. But Rosenstock says if a person believes that checking glucose is doing finger sticks, going to get those preventative services, if that person believes those things will help them have a best quality of life, identify things early on to seek out a solution, then they will more than likely go get those things done if they're not any barriers. You know, if there's not any underinsured or no insured, it's not any, they don't have to travel to the next town. If there are not any barriers there, for the most part, health belief says, well, I'm going to get this done because I believe this is beneficial to me. And then Sister Callista Roy, adaption, adjusting, pivoting, all those words means the same thing. She created that model for us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Give you just another few moments to, finish up your notes. Because then we're going to talk about research. Research has been in the news a lot here lately. Okay. But research is where we get our evidence from. That's what we get our evidence from. That's how we know how much Tylenol, how many Tylenol to take, how many that we need to get our colonoscopies at this age. They just lowered the age of colonoscopies, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And it was one age. The evidence showed. Where did they get the evidence from? Collecting the information. So our information can be qualitative or quantitative. So quantitative research is what it is, the quantity. For example, it could be blood pressure measurements. It can be heights and weights. And then qualitative is information that's gathered through interviews or observations. So we are observing something, or we sit down and we have an interview with someone. So those are usually focus groups. For example, have a group of people that have diabetes, community members that have diabetes, and we're asking them about pain. And we have all these focus groups for a certain amount of time. And we have a certain set of people that we're going to interview. And from that, those conversations, which is qualitative research, data that's gathered through interviews, we publish our information. We say, well, this number of people reported this. And that is evidence. That drives what we do, evidence-based. But quantitative research is where it's quantity, where we gather measured things. It could be blood that's gathered and we get the white blood cell count. We get the, hemoglobin hematocrit. It's the quantity of something. It's blood pressure measurements, heights, weights, things like that. But qualitative is gathered through interviews. Now, who oversees which federal health agency is responsible for research? That is the National Institutes of Health. They fund biomedical research in they have their own laboratories. And then, of course, they fund research in hospitals, universities, private research institutions. So that's the National Institutes of Health. They're like the huge umbrella where all this research falls upon. They're the ones that have the funds and guide all this information, collect all this qualitative data that's gathered through interviews, and this quantity measurements. Okay. So we do have some other healthcare agencies out there, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. They provide health prevention and promotion of leadership. We have HRSA, the Health Resources and Services Administration. Their focus is on improving access to medical care. And then we have the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. It makes sure that our foods, our medications, and devices that we use are safe. So we have 4 health agencies, NIH, National Institutes of Health, research, qualitative, quantitative. Qualitative, information that we gather through interviews. We sit down and have focus groups. Quantitative, we gather measured things, for example, heights, weights, blood counts, echocardiograms. It gathers information about the person's ejection fraction. The EKG, it gathers heart rates, the rhythms. That's quantitative. CDC, Centers for Disease Control, Health Prevention and Promotion, and HRSA, it focuses on improving the access to medical care. And then we have the FDA, Food Drug Administration, U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Now, it also oversees the safetyness of devices, including the foods and medications. Any questions about those agencies or the qualitative or quantitative research? Any questions? Okay. So with that, our evidence, of course, we're using the latest. So when you're doing your papers and everything, you don't want to go back 5 years because we want to use the newest knowledge and information that is out there. We use scientific knowledge. It has been proven effective, and that is the best way to kind of explain evidence base. We're just not pulling things out of the air. The evidence, the information gathered. These are the results of it. I'm going to pause for questions. I know we've covered a lot. I'm going to pause for questions. Look in the chat, make sure I haven't missed any. Okay, no questions in the chat. All right, so again, evidence-based practice, we do want to use the latest information, that best research evidence. It comes and it helps guides. It helps guides what we do and don't do for our patients because based on the evidence. It shouldn't be just things that people just come up with without evidence. If they come up with it and we have evidence to prove that it works, well, that's great. But it is the latest evidence-based research. All righty, so let's pause here and go to our next break. We're gonna stop and take a because we don't have many other concepts to go over. So we'll stop and take our 5-minute break. We'll save our other time towards the end. Now, just as a reminder, this video stays on. Make sure that you don't want to see anything or hear anything. Make sure your cameras are off, that you're on mute. We'll see you in 5. All right, let's finish it on up. We'll take our other break at the end, but let's go ahead and make sure we get all of our concepts covered here. All righty. So again, this is week 7. Week 8 is Memorial Day. So your Monday classes will not meet. So we come back on week 9. We will have quiz 5, and that's the last week before unit exam 3. And then that'll lead us into week 10, which is unit exam 3, and then the HESI. So I already have said, go back, start looking at week 1's recordings, exam 1 and 2 exam reviews, because remember, the bigger picture is you provide that best care you can for every patient, taking an NCLEX, sitting 1 time, passing that HESI, and passing your unit exams. So make sure that you're starting that preparation to go back through those concepts. You identify a concept that you need assistance with, send an email with dates and times. We can jump on the phone. We can do it via Zoom. So make sure that you're doing that if you run across something that you need to discuss. All right. So we have for-profit hospitals and we have non-profit community hospitals. So religious organizations, usually they're the ones that operate the nonprofit community hospitals. It does not mean that you have to be a member of that religious organization to go to that hospital and receive the care. It does not mean that a nonprofit hospital does not provide the best care for their clients. It's just saying that's who pays their budget, who funds their budget, who pays for the resources that they use, the people that work there. That is where the money comes from. So that's all that it's saying. It's not connected to, well, I must be that religion to go there to receive those services. No. Religious organizations operate a lot of the non-profit community hospitals. So the clients can receive the same care, acute care, on a short-term basis, because it's a hospital setting. The client will not necessarily have fewer medical expenses, but it's just saying that's where their funds come from, those non-profit community hospitals. Teaching hospitals offer specialized care. Critical access care hospitals, they're located in the rural areas. Those critical access care hospitals are located in the rural areas, because remember, our rural areas, we learned that in communities, they're spaced out. Rural communities they're spaced out. They might not even have some resources available, some specialty care in those areas. And so they come up with these critical access care hospitals, and those are located in the rural areas. So the nonprofit hospitals, the religious organizations are who, and then some of the foundations, like the large foundations, like the Bill Gates and things like that, those foundations, they also assist those nonprofit hospitals in funding their budget so that they're able to buy the supplies and pay their employees. So teaching hospitals, many of the facilities that you go to do your clinicals at, they're listed as teaching facilities. So they allow us to come in to do our clinicals. They also, most of the time, they're involved in research and clinical trials as well. Those are those teaching hospitals. Still, the best care is provided. The level of care doesn't change. It's just saying that they also allow those things to also occur inside of their facilities. Any questions about that nonprofit hospital or the teaching hospitals? Okay. Hearing none, we will go on. Okay. And so where do we provide home health care at? Where does that health care take place at?
In the patient's home.
In the patient's home. That wasn't a trick question. It occurs in their home. And so we still, we knock on the doors, we still explain procedures prior to doing them. Even if we're in that client's home, you let them know, I am Nurse Neva. I am going to prepare now for your dressing change. I'm going to prepare now for your Foley catheter change, your wound care, or, whatever it is. We still let them know what we're going to do prior to performing it. When we're in our patients' homes, whenever we want to maintain a non-judgmental attitude. And so even if we go in and a client has clothes on the couch, they hadn't folded up yet, or they're folded up, they haven't been put away. As long as we are safe and they're safe, we provide that non-judgmental care to our patients. Even if we're in the home or the hospital or the urgent care and they're refusing because of whatever reason, they don't want that treatment, we still provide that, exercise a non-judgmental attitude with our clients. We want to support their autonomy. And it's as long as we're safe and they're safe, we go on and provide that care for them. If their clothes are piled up, the dishes are piled up. And so we do have adult daycare centers. They're just like the children daycare centers. Essentially, they provide services for people who need supervision, basically because of physical or safety needs. Now, they don't traditionally provide total care in adult daycare centers. That's not appropriate for that setting. But a lot of times the family members are going to work and they don't want their loved ones at home by themselves, so they will go there. And so, the person might use a wheelchair, cane, or crutch or walker. And so, yes, that is the level of care. That is an appropriate setting of services that they can receive from an adult daycare. And now in some places it says daycare, but their services are provided 24 hours. There are even some child care services that never close or 24/7. An independent living facility it is what it is. That person is independent. They're not requiring total care. And if someone requires total care, they don't need to be in an independent living facility. That is not an appropriate level of care for them. Okay. Community health nursing care is a service that focuses on improving the health status of the community or group. So doing health fairs. A thing that I've been seeing too is that they have health fairs and they're collaborating with local farmers. They're collaborating with local agencies within that community to bring them all to one place, like a one-stop shop on that day. And so while the health facilities can't provide all the services, but they're there and they're letting people know they're there in the community. And what was it? So they had this health fair. They had farmers there. They had this huge healthcare service that's in the area, and they had the dentist doing screening. So while he couldn't do a full dental, procedure there, the dentist was able to do screenings. So you're seeing a lot of that now in the community. And that does improve the health status of communities and individuals. And therefore, once they're able to see those people face to face in that setting, then they establish that therapeutic relationship. And then they're more likely to go into their offices and get those services. But we're seeing that now. As a matter of fact, our health officer was like, hey, we need you all to start thinking about when you all have these health fairs, what things that you can do to service the children. Because usually health fairs are always focused on mostly on adults. And so they encourage that as well. So those are that's community health nursing, adult daycares, and then independent living. Okay. And so if a person has advanced Alzheimer's, usually there's not just cognition problems. That person will need assistance with activities of daily living, dressing, feeding, and things like that. And so a long-term care facility is more than likely going to be the setting. If that person or that family members don't want to provide care for their loved one in their home, the long-term care facility will offer that range of medical services that are designed to help clients with all different types of disabilities and chronic care and advanced Alzheimer's, not just Alzheimer's, advanced Alzheimer's. And that's where, the person, like I say, will need additional assistance with the activities of daily living. So that would be an appropriate healthcare setting for them. Because remember, the adult daycare, that person needs minimal assistance. They may use a cane walker or crutch, but they're not needing to be fed. They're not needed to be bathed or anything like that. So that's a different setting for them. So let's talk about the duties as an LPN. What can we provide? Can we feed a client?
Yes.
Okay. Can we provide respiratory care to a client?
Yes.
Okay. So respiratory care, well, what is that? Remember, we're checking respirations, we're listening to lung sounds, we're administering breathing treatments, we're administering inhalers, we may even do the percussion. So yeah, that's respiratory care. Yes, we can do that. What about blood glucose testing or finger sticks? Can we as an LPN do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Can we create care plans as an LPN?
No.
Okay. That's from week 1. Remember, we have the LPN and the RN. We don't create the care plans. That's the role of the who?
RN.
The RN. The RN creates the care plans. Okay. All right. Let's see here. I don't think I mentioned assisted living. I thought I mentioned independent living, but assisted living is not a facility where someone needs total care either. It is what it is. It says assistance. Usually those persons that live in assisted living, they usually don't need extensive care with feeding and bathing. They may need assistance with that is a setting that we can work in as an LPN, administering some medications. Most of the time they're pretty much independent with that as well. But it's not intended, an assisted living facility is not intended to provide skilled nursing services. You might have to assist with medications, but as far as doing dressing changes and inserting Foley catheters, those are traditionally not done in assisted living. That is not for that level of care. Okay. Then an independent living facility is not licensed either or regulated by healthcare. I didn't add that part. So for sure, that is not a place. Independent living is not somewhere where someone needs skilled care either. So can a person receive hospice care in the home?
Yes.
Okay. So what is respite care?
Gives the caregiver a break.
Okay.
And it can be done like in the home or in a facility.
Yes. And so they can take their loved one to a facility for that. I think most of the time it's 5 or 7 days or something like that they can take them there, or they can have someone to come into their home and be there to provide it's temporary respite care. That's RESPITE. Respite care provides temporary relief for the caregiver, whether or not it's the family or whomever is providing that care for them. The adult daycares, it allows for socialization as well. They have in the adult daycares, they get these reading groups, these painting groups. They do much socialization. And don't talk about the bingo, the different games that they play. And they like create their own little league, so to speak. So with the assisted living, the patients are no longer living in their homes. They've moved out and they are living in those assisted living facilities. They call them communities. Someone does the lawn and keep that part up. But as far as someone coming in and providing baths and things for them, that does not happen. Was there a question? No, okay, no question. All right. Adult daycares, they are community-based. It is a community-based option. Most of the time is, that daytime support. They do feed meals. They have those social activities they provide. There are a lot of individuals to just, be engaged during that time that their family is away from the home. That skilled nursing facility, we will have to document the skills that we're providing for them. And that is usually turned into some type of state regulatory agency, the amount of skills, what we're doing. So that documentation piece is going to be essential to justify why that patient is, in that facility. Of course, as I mentioned when we first started talking, we want to always tell patients what we're going to do. We don't just go in, turn back the covers and start pulling off dressings, and we always explain what we're going to do before we actually start doing it. We're getting ready to do your dressing change. I'm setting up for your dressing change. Getting ready to set up for your change of your Foley catheter. So the U.S. Food Drug Administration, what does it ensure for us? What does that administration oversee? Is responsible for what? The U.S. Food and Drug Administration. It oversees what? To make sure what is safe.
The food and
foods, medicines, or drugs, and also our devices. They make sure that the canes, the walkers, the crutches, the stents, the medical devices that we use are safe. So let's talk about the insurance. How does this insurance thing work? We have something called a deductible. What is a deductible?
like what's being taken away.
Okay, so the deductible refers to that yearly amount that the person that subscribes to that insurance must pay at the time of a healthcare visit before the health insurance policy will start paying their part. So just think about your car deductible, car insurance. You got that deductibles. For example, if something happens to your vehicle, there's a part that you must pay before your insurance company kicks in and pays their part. It's the same thing for health insurance. A deductible refers to that yearly amount. And once you meet that deductible, then every year starts all over too. So if that deductible is $500, you must pay $500 out of your pocket on your part before your insurance company starts paying their part. It's a yearly amount the client must spend out of pocket before the insurance company begins to pay their part. Okay. And then we have, what was the purpose of the Affordable Care Act?
To provide better healthcare, cheaper healthcare for certain people that couldn't afford healthcare.
So is in a title. It's not a trick. Affordable healthcare. That act, it was to make healthcare affordable. Because I don't know if you subscribe to your company's insurance or whomever, those the Blue Crosses, Blue Shields, that stuff is expensive. So the Affordable Care Act, the whole purpose of it was to make it more affordable, to put plans and things out there that you can decide what works best for you, to improve the affordability, to decrease and then as a result of that, if insurance was made more affordable, hopefully more people would subscribe to whatever that insurance was that fit them. Because even if you subscribe to your company's insurance and that insurance doesn't cover, like for example, if you have some type of chronic disease process and it requires that you go in and get MRIs every month or lab work done every 2 weeks or whenever, if that insurance does not cover for you to get those services done, then who pays for it? The individual. And so the Affordable Care Act, again, made healthcare more affordable. Well, you can go in and decide which plan best fits you and what you have going on. And so it as a result of that, hopefully decreasing the number of people that were not insured. Okay. So the United States Food and Drug Administration, I don't know why they left out devices out of the title, but it does oversee the safetyness of our foods, our medications or drugs, and also devices. I don't know, maybe it was too many words or something, but don't forget that part. It does oversee that. And then going back to the insurance, a copay, that's the amount of money that the person that's getting ready to receive the services, that's the amount that they must pay before passing the receptionist desk. Sometimes they'll let you put it on, they'll bill you, but that co-payment is the amount of money that the person that is insured must pay at the time of the healthcare services. We're there to see the doctor, just to see the doctor. They charge us the $20 or $30, however much. We go on back and see the doctor. We are there to get lab work done. There's a copay. You pay $2 to get your lab work done today. We pay that, and then we go on and receive the services. That deductible is that yearly amount that we must pay as a person that has subscribed to that insurance out of our own pockets before the insurance company pays their part. So then they've come up with this DRG, this diagnostic related groups, and they call them DRGs, and diagnosis related group. It is a formula. They had this huge book of anything that you can think of. Right toe broke, left foot fractured. I mean, it goes all the way down. It's really specific. Second digit on right hand fracture or whatever, a sprain or whatever. Based on that diagnosis, the government uses a calculator. They've calculated what they will pay for the services based on the diagnosis that doctor lists in your document, in your note, in your medical record. So this is very important that we document because it is directly related to that facility getting those funds for those services that they have provided. So the diagnosis related groups is a formula that the government uses to calculate what is paid each year. So they've looked up, they had this gigantic book of everything in it. It is specific to the side, right, left. It is really specific. And how do they get all this information? By gathering evidence. And so that's very important that the doctors and nurses, everyone documents everything, all the services that they actually provide. Okay. I think we have covered all of our concepts. We'll just go back again just to make sure that we are reminded to start going back through this recording because we have unit exam 3. When we come back, we don't come next Monday, but the following Monday, quiz 5, and then that's our last week before unit exam 3. We will go back over everything again, all the concepts, but go back and start reviewing everything from week 1 because you have your NCLEX, you have your HESI. And we will go on our break at this moment in time. Have a good week, and we'll see you not next week, but the following week. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone here for any questions? Okay.